Hello everyone, and welcome to another God of War video. Today, I have a lovely interview with the extremely talented Matt Sophos from Santa Monica Studios. He is, of course, the narrative director and story lead for God of War Ragnarok. How are you doing, Matt? Pleasure to have you on.
I'm great. Thanks for taking the time to chat. I just want to correct one thing. I'm not the story lead. That's Richard Gobert. I was the story lead on the last one. I'm just the narrative director on this one.
My bad on my end, but thank you for correcting me. Again, still, thank you very much. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to Santa Monica Studios and Sony for making this interview possible, and the people that have worked on the game, because I myself have been able to play it. I'm quite deep into it, and it's been a weird and very long time since I've been able to play a game and fall in love with it the way I have. Now,
That's
of
great.
course, with the game coming off, of course, congratulations to yourself as well as the rest of the team. It's really a labor of love to the fans with the amount of time and effort you have put into the game. I can say it's a masterclass in design in every sense of the word. But with that said, this is, of course, Ragnarok, the climax of the Nordic series. So in between that time, of course, what would you say how Fimbulwinter has affected each character like Kratos, Atreus, and even Freya? Has it been a blessing or more so a curse for these three characters?
Well, Fimbulwinter being in effect has in essence it's closed off all the realms. So all of our kind of main characters have been isolated in Midgard. I think in a lot of ways, Kratos kind of probably prefers that because for him it means it kind of he thinks incorrectly. It turns out he thinks it keeps them relatively protected from all the other gods, everybody except for Freya. For Atreus, it's kind of a barrier to what he wants to do, which is to find out about who he's supposed to be. We had the big prophecy in the last game, and the big reveal. Spoiler alert to anybody who didn't play the last game, about him being Loki, but he's a teenager who's trying to figure out who he's supposed to be, and having Fimbulwinter isolating them in Midgard means he can't really explore that as much as he'd want to. For Freya, it's kind of just it adds more fuel to Freya's anger about the situation she finds herself in. It also means that Kratos is the only one who she can take her anger out on because she can't go beyond that. But that's probably how it affects most of our characters. It's brutal. It's harsh, and everybody's having to survive it stuck in Midgard with the winter the way it is.
You are you are definitely not wrong. Without going into too much detail, of course, hopefully there's been enough time between this interview and when the game has come out. Those first 2 hours are really explosive. I remember screaming within the first interaction, crying in one of the other interactions, and having my jaw in my lap during the third interaction, which I won't spoil. I'll let people kind of see it for themselves, but it's been absolutely incredible to watch, and you really hit the nail on the head as far as openings go for video games, because it really slaps.
That's also good. We really wanted the way we start out this game. We're really trying to set the status quo, really kind of put the layer on of like where the characters are at the start of the game, and give you an idea of what their daily life is like in the beginning before we obviously come and upend everything.
Now, it's kind of nigh impossible to talk about Ragnarok without touching on Thor as well as Odin. From a narrative perspective, without going into too much detail, of course, what exactly did you want to bring to these characters that wasn't seen before in other forms of media? And to characters like Kratos and Atreus, what would you say that Thor and Odin kind of represent to them?
Well, as with kind of everything that we've done in God of War and all the characters, even you saw in the last game, it's always our goal to really subvert players' expectations. We want players to think something is going one way, or a character can be described as one note or whatever. Feel like that could be the direction we go, and then kind of turn everything on its head. So when it comes to Thor and Odin, while they didn't appear in God of War 2018, they were talked about a lot. Obviously never in flattering terms because it was coming from Mimir or sometimes Freya. But we really wanted to make sure they didn't come off as that one-note villain. We wanted to kind of bring a bunch of depth and nuance to the characters because the truth is always grayer. Truth is comes from what we told in the last game came from the perspective of people who were wronged by these characters, and they did horrible things. I'm definitely not giving Odin or Thor a pass, but we just want to make sure that we know. It's obvious. We know that like Odin and Thor at this point in public consciousness is driven by the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel Comics in general. And that's obviously not what we're doing here. We're taking a bent that is more about the mythology, the Eddas, and some of that stuff, but turning it on its head like we do with all God of War things. But as to what they represent for Kratos and Atreus, that they know all the stories, so they know that Thor and Odin are dangerous. They're huge threats. And that's kind of where it just sits with Kratos. Atreus, they also could be avenues to finding out more about who he's supposed to be. So again, it gets a little bit grayer to use that term again. So it's all about kind of we've set things up, and now we want to pay them off in interesting ways that people may not see coming.
That's a really good and interesting way of putting it, because even from the last game, you guys kind of put characters in these very interesting and complex, morally grey areas, opposed to like, oh, he's the good guy, he's the bad guy. So it's hard to not sympathize, or at least understand where some of these characters are coming from, with how they feel and how they are. And I'm sure players will be able to see a very interesting and new take that hasn't been done with either Thor or Odin in any form of media. But with that said, we now move on to the fun question. With Ragnarok's release, everyone's big main question is, where are we going next? Will we meet another Pantheon? Is Greece back on the table? Like, my question for you, with all creative liberties aside or narratives tied to this game or the previous games, what Pantheon of world would you actually be interested in tackling next with the team, if you can say anything?
What I can say is that I've been just so focused on Ragnarok that I've kind of tried to push out any ideas for what could come next. This has been such an undertaking to end the Norse saga that it didn't really leave a lot of room for, what could we do next or whatever. It was just about, okay, how do we wrap this up in a way that feels earned and important for all these characters that we have. I could pick a Pantheon for the next, but that would largely probably be driven by where I would want to go for like a research trip or something. So, it wouldn't be what best fits the franchise, but
it's a good holiday.
I guess in that case, give me give me Polynesian mythology or something. Ooh. I could really enjoy researching things while laying on a beach drinking a Mai Tai. So. But yeah, like that is not informed by anything other than where I would selfishly want to go on a trip.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. It sounds like a good free holiday too.
That's what you're always looking for.
With the game now ready in the hands of fans, who are you the most personally excited for fans to meet or interact with? As whilst we know of how Ragnarok goes in its mythological counterpart, Santa Monica has an extremely interesting way of taking what we know and just kind of subverting our expectations and, turning things on its head. What would you say you're most excited to see?
That is really a tough one, because now obviously I'm incredibly biased, but I really love all these characters, and I love all the actors who've portrayed them. They all bring such, depth and heart and everything to these characters. And I don't know. I guess if you could ask me on different days, and I would give you different answers. I'm really excited for people to get to check in with Brock and Sindri again, because in the last game, well, we had a definite arc for the characters. They were mostly just shopkeepers who give like little bits of dialogue here and there, and they're much more folded into the core of the narrative in this in Ragnarok, in God of War Ragnarok. Um, I'm also really excited for people to get to know Angrboda. Leia DeLeon Hayes is such an amazing actor, and she brings a warmth and a pathos. That sounds so pretentious, but you know, she brings all that to the character that I'm really interested to see how people feel, and I think she's going to be she's going to inspire a lot of cosplay. I hope, because she's a really cool character. That's what all the Aesir gods. I don't know. I like them all.
They do have very eccentric and beautiful designs, and I suppose even from a creative standpoint in your ends, it must be kind of surreal now watching all the actors in the mocap suits kind of like walk out through these scenes, now be inserted in game and actually play through the models that you guys have been working with for so long.
It's quite an experience to go from having, you know, things down on the page, scenes on the page, to going on set, and, or even before that, talking to the actors about what the characters are going through. And before we even started, this is a little bit of inside baseball, before we even started shooting anything in the early days, when we had kind of worked out the bones of the story and where things were going to go, I went around. Eric Williams, our game director, he joined me for as many as he could. I got to go and sync with all of our actors who were in the previous game and just walk them through. We'd meet at restaurants or whatever, and we kind of, I'd walk them through where the story was going and what it was going to happen with their characters, and to watch their face kind of like light up and the wheels turn and what they were going to do was a cool experience. And then to take that all the way through each stage of both shooting the scenes and being in the VO booth for level banter and things like that. You know, as a developer, there's your expectations for how it's going to play out. You can hope that things are going to land correctly, and but you never really know. I think that's what fueled, if you followed any of the developers of this game through various social medias, we were all very kind of like nervous and things. We knew we had a great game and we were proud of it, but we didn't know how it would land with people. And getting to see how it is landing and how it all kind of came together has been incredibly rewarding.
No, that's amazing to see, and it's really heartwarming to hear. And you know, a lot of people don't realize how interactive or how much developers actually see of either content creators or fans on social media, and it's really nice to, you know, see that we're acknowledged and seen, and you know, kind of sense that was it a sensation of nervousness. But you know, you guys have definitely knocked it out of the park. If the review scores are to say anything, I can say from my personal experience, I never really want to put down my controller at any point. I guarantee you, after this interview, I'm going right back to playing.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Once again, thank you again for your time, Matt. I do humbly appreciate you being able to come on here today and talk with myself about all things God of War related. With that said, is there anything you want to say to fans or even the fantastic scene now that the game is officially out?
I think all I want to say, and I talked to you about this just, you know, before we started getting going, but I really do want to express how grateful we are for the outpouring of support that we've gotten from our fans and just the, you know, the community, the God of War community, and people who have really enjoyed what we've done. This has been a 4-year labor of love for a lot of people. It takes a huge team to kind of put together something this big, and largely, you know, for 4 years, God of War has been kept alive in the public consciousness and online and things like that by people like you and you know, fans online. They've, you know, who have really kind of speculated about where things could go, or did cosplay, or lots of incredible art. And it's a credit to you guys that it didn't really die after, we came out in 2018. There was always some amount of groundswell of chatter, and I don't think I can express to you how much we on the team, or me personally, appreciate that level of commitment and love. And when this game comes out and everybody gets to play it, I'm just really excited for fans to get to dive in and really see where we take things.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words, Matt. I super appreciate it, and I can't wait for all of the fans to give their reception back for a team that has really just well over-deserved it for the amount of love, time, and passion they've put in. Thank you for everything you've done. I hope everyone really enjoys this game and tying up all of those loose threads from the 2018 installment. As someone still playing through the game, it is definitely one that lives up to the legacy and reputation of previous God of Wars, and I cannot wait to see the climax of the Twilight End of the Gods. With that said, thank you to Santa Monica Studios for making this all possible, and of course, the entire creative team in the back. You are the unsung heroes of this tale, who really make this all possible, and the fans who keep the spirit of God of War alive ever since the 2018 game. With that said, that has been me, that has been Matt, and as always, stay strong, stay well, and keep on fighting. Ragnarok's finally here.